I'm Todd Bookspan, and welcome to your neighborhood real estate show. The hyperlocal real estate show where real estate professionals talk about the neighborhood you live in or the neighborhood you want to live in. This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today. Hey everyone, welcome to your neighborhood real estate show. I'm your host, Todd Bookspan, and today I've got Kevin Barry, and we're going to talk about Lindsay Ranch in Gilbert, Arizona. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, so give us a little background on you, your business life, your family life. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I'm considered a millennial. We'll start there, right?
All right. We won't hold it against you. Actually, it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I'm 30 years old. I've been married for 9 years now to my wife Alexis, and we have 3 kids. One of them's adopted, which is always a lot of fun. We're working on another adoption as well right now.
That's awesome.
I'm a military veteran, former law enforcement.
Thanks for your service.
Yeah, I mean,
you've done a lot in your 30 years.
I have. Yeah, and I mean, now I love real estate, and that's been my thing for the last 8 years total, but 5 years licensed.
Wow, that's kind of crazy considering that's your age. You've squeezed a lot in that time for sure.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Well, and so you're with Keller Williams Integrity First.
I am.
Right?
Yep.
Work for my good friend Steve Chater. What a great guy.
That's right.
Truly one of the best leaders in the industry. And so my goal really was to bring you on for a couple reasons. One is we'll talk about Lindsay Ranch, and then I'd love to talk about kind of your perspective if someone's thinking about selling a home or buying a home, sort of what that process looks like, where to start, what to expect. But when you and I were talking about it, I know that Lindsay Ranch is kind of your place. You love that part of Gilbert. So for someone who's unfamiliar with it, where is it located? Let's start there with the basics.
Right. So Lindsay and Ray is where it's at. There's 573 homes in that neighborhood, and it's a great little spot. It's early 2000s is when there's 3 different builders that went in there, built it up, and it's a great little community that people absolutely love. It's right next to Western Skies golf courses.
Oh, nice.
It backs up to the train track, which doesn't sound really exciting, but Gilbert is kind of a different breed, and they really like the train track. I myself live very close to that.
Nice.
So
you ever splash pennies on it?
We have done that.
All right, good. All right.
Yeah. We started going up to like quarters and stuff, and I don't know what's supposed to happen with that though.
Well, you don't want to derail the train.
That's right. Exactly. So Lindsay Ranch though, it's been great. There's a bunch of little businesses that are just east of it that are really great businesses that are locally owned, mom and pop dental offices, orthodontists. There's a barbecue company over there that all do really great business, and they're just really great. So we've done a lot of connecting between the local community and those businesses as well.
That's awesome. And what's the normal, what's an average price of a home in there?
Yeah, it's about $350.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, $330, $350, depending on some seasonality, for sure. Yeah.
And what, single story, double story, small, big? Yeah,
so they're going to be considered average size for Gilbert, Arizona, and 85296, the zip code they're in. 1,800 square feet, and they have both. It's both single story and 2-story.
And so someone who is listening to this from some other part of the country, Gilbert is southeast of Phoenix technically, right?
Right.
And we call it the Southeast Valley here.
Southeast Valley, yeah. And we like to look at Gilbert as it's kind of the premier community there, and it's one of the newest communities, right? You have some of Mesa that was built in the 60s and 70s, a little bit of 80s, and they have some new stuff now, especially going further east. And then Chandler is a little bit older as well. So Gilbert really is one of the newest communities that is well established until you get out, Queen Creek, Santan Valley. So it's an established area, has one of the best downtowns that I think anybody.
Downtown is awesome. We were just there recently. I mean, the restaurants that have popped up there and just the social life, it seemed way more vibrant now than it was, the first time I was there, 5-6 years ago.
Right. And all those local restaurants that people love, and like Wildflower and Culinary Dropout and things like that, actually right around here, as well as in Scottsdale, that people really love. Those are all showing up in Gilbert now. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Well, and it's funny because you kind of say, well, it's coming along. I don't necessarily think so. I think it was always really cool, and now it's just attracted some of the other great local folks over there. And so, age, demographics, I mean, it's pretty diverse.
Yeah, pretty diverse. Gilbert has one of the highest income demographics, which is really great. And that has really helped, I think, with a bunch of different aspects of it. Crime is really low. It's always one of the lowest crime rate statistics for the whole country. Schools are fantastic. So, I mean, it's a really great place to live. I live there. We own multiple homes in Gilbert, and definitely recommend it for sure. And so as far as people that live, if we want to get hyper local and everything, talk about Lindsay Ranch. They have a couple different parks there as well. And the central location of Lindsay and Ray, really you can't get more central in Gilbert.
Well, I think that's the key. I mean, one of the things that you have being when it was built was that they built in each of the different communities little parks and little areas for neighbors to gather versus some of the older neighborhoods where I find that wasn't the case.
Right. Well, and really you have to do that now and new builds especially, because what do we do when we go home, right? We open up the garage.
Yep.
We drive in.
We shut it.
Close the garage.
We got a fence between us and our neighbors.
Exactly, right? So we don't have that whole thing of you get out and you say hi to the neighbors because they're getting home at the same time you are. It's very, very different culture. So having those parks is great for kids and families and everything else. It's really great.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's always what I hear is that whole word of community, and I love the fact that they've got businesses and all that going on there. And so I think it's an interesting time right now. People are, here we are heading in 2020. People are thinking about buying homes, right? Interest rates are good. Home inventory is a little bit tight. I mean, what's the market look like there for someone who's a buyer trying to get in the market?
Yeah, so we were just looking at that. The overall market for the Phoenix metro area, you're only looking at 17,000 active listings right now, which is down from 21,000 just a year ago.
Yeah, so that's not a lot. It's just a couple months supply.
Right, and when you think about that, I mean, that's a 20% difference between last year and this year for the same time period, right? And to get really specific, in Gilbert, that's only pronounced, right? So months of inventory is like 2.3 right now for the Phoenix metro area. In Gilbert, we're at 1.4. So I remember looking at San Diego a couple years ago when it was really booming and really hot, and they were at 0.9, 1.2 months of supply, and we're getting there, which is a welcome thing for sellers. And for buyers, it's a little bit more difficult.
It's a frustrating point for buyers.
Yeah.
So how are you counseling your buyers then as far as buyers coming to you and they want to take their time and find the perfect house? And, how are you kind of preparing them for the fact that there's going to be multiple offers and that, they can't sit on their laurels, so to speak?
Yeah, good question. So, and not one that many people ask, unfortunately. So one of the big issues that we see is that when we have multiple offers, especially in that price point, 300, 350, if you're there, you're probably going to hit multiple offers, especially in Gilbert. So we're making sure that obviously they're totally pre-approved, right, through great lender like you guys, right, as well as we always, when we show the property, we're actually taking a photo of them in the kitchen or in the backyard.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
It ties that emotional piece to it. And then obviously we're always writing a letter to the seller as well. So whether that comes from us or from the buyer, we want to tie that emotion into it because we know that people buying and selling is emotional, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's an investor, they still have some emotional attachment to it. And if it means the difference of this buyer has a letter to them versus the other one that doesn't, if everything else is the same, they'll always go with the other one.
Well, I think I love hearing that. And I love the fact that you take the time yourself or encourage your clients to do that, because we definitely see a lot of buyer fatigue, right? Where they've gone and they put an offer in and didn't get accepted, put an offer and didn't get accepted, or they loved a house and I better look at a couple more. And by the time they looked at a couple more, that one was long gone. That first one that they looked at that they loved.
Right. A lot of that comes down to education too, right? When we do a buyer consultation, we're talking about the market, right? The fact that I know how many homes are available and active is far and above what, unfortunately, some of our other industry partners know, right? They just go, oh yeah, hey, let's just go sell the house and let's just go do it.
Right.
Versus let's actually set our clients up for success, have the pre-approval, have the photo, have the letter to the seller, and educate them on what it's going to take in order to be able to buy.
So talk about buyer consultation, because I think most people think is they're going to see a house on a picture online, they're going to call, say, hey, let me look at it, and then they're just going to show up there and meet the agent. I mean, that's different than a buyer consultation.
Absolutely. So, and there's some companies that do that, right? I won't talk about them today, but the whole point of it though is we want to empower buyers, we want to empower sellers to make sure that they're making the best decisions for themselves and their families. And so when we can sit down with him and say, hey, here are all your different options, that's much different than just going, oh, I saw a nice house, let me request a showing, right?
Right.
And you don't want someone to fall in love with the house and then not be able to buy it, right?
Well,
Especially in a
that's
tight inventory.
Well, and I think there's nothing more frustrating than someone thinking that they can buy a home, not have taken the time to figure out what the payment was, what the down payment is, or maybe they did think that, but then paid for an inspection, paid an appraisal, and then actually didn't qualify for the home.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal. You want to save people as much money as possible. So, it starts with the preparation.
Right.
It's like painting a room, right? You're not just going to go in there with rollers right away. If you tape it off and you mask it and everything else, it actually comes out much better.
But yes, so it's
you're
not
right,
fun. And
yeah.
I guess that's the whole point. Is it takes a little bit extra work. So how far ahead of someone buying a home are you recommending they sit down with you?
The sooner the better, right? Because there's so many different things that go into buying a home. You know that. You have credit, you have down payment, you have debt to income, you have a bunch of different aspects, and then just what's happening in their life as well, right? If someone's saying, hey, I'm going to get married next year, well, great. Let's bring you and your fiance in. Let's start talking about what that looks like and whether it makes sense to buy now or later or whatever it may be, because we only know what we know now. We can venture to guess on what's going to happen with interest rates and what's going to happen with the market, but nobody really knows, right? Things
My
can
crystal
change.
ball's a little foggy.
That's right. I mean, I think about like Brexit a few years back, right? Nobody really knew what was going to happen until it broke, and then all of a sudden interest rates went down considerably for about a week, right?
Yes.
And then they went straight back up. So our operations manager actually was one of the ones that got to take advantage of that. But I think about someone that might have got a pre-qual that week.
Yeah.
And then what happens the next week when it went straight back up? Their payment went up considerably.
It's funny that you say that, because I think that is such a challenge, is this whole idea of, people who were prepared, or their lender was prepared for an unexpected economic event, were able to benefit, and those who were not prepared, weren't paying attention, or the lender wasn't, had to wait till for something else to happen down the road.
Right. And that's something that it pays to pay attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're paying attention to what's happening with China and the Trump deal and trade and everything else, I think that's an important thing that real estate agents and loan officers should be paying attention to. Again, it's probably going to happen like Brexit, where a deal's going to be made and you're going to find out the next day. And if you're already letting your clients know that, hey, there's some potential here, just be aware, that's better than them being totally unaware and having no clue of what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's always a real big key. And so one of the things that I love you talking about is the education, and the fact that you're taking the time to make sure that you're knowledgeable for your clients. Right. And are there questions that you think someone can ask their real estate agent or a potential real estate agent in order to determine whether they have that knowledge or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So really it just comes down to current events, I think, mainly, right? And what does history tell us? Because we know that we can learn from history, right?
Absolutely.
And history typically repeats itself.
Yes.
So
just a few clues.
Just a few clues, exactly. So I think that's really important. If they know something, to ask questions, mm-hmm. and to really ask, just keep asking questions, because as soon as we assume, we know what happens, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that. We don't want our clients to assume anything about us. We don't want to assume anything about our clients, which is why we have that buyer's consultation or the seller's consultation, because we want to make sure that they understand where we're coming from and we understand where they're coming from. And if we understand where we all sit, maybe it's a great partnership and we can go forward, or maybe it's not. But we should still ask those questions. And I think we owe it as realtors and as lenders, I think we owe it to our communities to actually ask those questions versus just say, hey, let me just do this for you automatically. We should make sure that we're a good fit for them and that we're the right person for the job.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting market because, we always know that it's easier now than ever for people to get their real estate license, right? They watch a lot of HGTV. They think, gosh, they could become a house flipper. And I do think there's a big difference with someone who's doing this as a hobby versus someone who's doing this as a career. And so is there a question around that they could ask to determine? Yeah.
So, I mean, we do all of that, right? We have holds, we have flips, we do all kinds of different stuff. And, we walk people through 1031 exchanges. We have tax experts that are basically on call just to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our clients, and we put them together. So there's a lot of nuance there. HGTV has to take a really what ends up being like a 3-month long process and put it in about 25 minutes.
Right.
right? And so they're only going to show the really great parts, right? That really make good TV.
They every once in a while show when that roof is bad and it costs an extra, they say like $3,000 where it would
Right.
normally cost like $8,000 or $10,000.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that kitchen counter costs $50. What?
Right. Yeah. Well, and there's some truth to that, right? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Is the contractor legit or not? Right. So I do like that, and I like when they show that. Chip and Joanna almost always have, you have to insert some type of conflict, right?
Yes.
To make sure that it's good TV.
You make the call. No, you make
That's
the call.
right. That's right. Yeah, and it always works out, right?
It does
I love
well.
that. So I think that's an important piece. That, but as far as that, like what questions that a potential buyer, seller, or investor should ask about their agent, it's going to vary, because what one person knows versus another. I would ask, if someone's looking to invest, their realtor and their lending partner should be investing already.
Well, I think it's interesting because you said, right, hold. I've got properties I hold. So those would be a rental property, right? You guys are buying some properties, fixing them up, and then selling them at a profit. And then you're working with clients and investors.
Not always a profit, but yes.
Not always, right? Again, sometimes, that's...
Well, that's an important piece too, right? Because everyone sees these seminars and things going on, and they think, oh, what's the TV show in California with those two people? Anyways, they see those people and they go, oh,
Tariq?
we're making, there you go, and Christina, right?
Yeah, there we go.
So
I forgot the name of their show, but it's got a new name now that they're divorced.
Right, exactly. So they are, they're showing these huge profits, and the reality is that we're not seeing those type of
my friends who are flippers, like they're smaller profits, more transactions to make a living doing it these days.
Right. Definitely during this market, and the next market it might be really lucrative. It might be really great. So we're kind of learning, and we're educating ourselves through that. And if it's not huge numbers, that's okay. And we'll be perfectly positioned for when that does happen. And we're just showing our clients, hey, this is what you can do. Here's how to do it.
What would you say to someone who's hesitant to get into rental real estate? Because obviously you're young, you've got properties. Yeah. I own properties. I've owned them since, ironically, when I was your age.
Okay. Yeah.
What would you tell someone who's scared about jumping in and buying?
Well, sit down with us.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important. Talk to someone that has had some rental properties and can really give you the truth, because there's going to be some people that will tell you, oh, you can 100% do this and it's always been profitable, and that kind of thing. The reality is that it's good most of the time, but sometimes it's really not. And it's like anything, right? We all get married and we all think that it's going to be unicorns and rainbows all the time, and then you realize the amazing truth is that you're not perfect and they're not perfect, right? It's the same type of thing. So we can have these grand visions and everything else, but the reality is that issues happen. Roofs leak, air conditionings go out, dishwashers go out. There's a lot of things that you can do, like home warranties and things like that you can do to offset those. But I would definitely encourage someone that's interested in that talk to their trusted agent, not just someone that they happen to know, a cousin or whoever that is a realtor, but actually someone that buys properties themselves and actually holds them.
I think that's really critical, because that was one of the things that I was always surprised when I would hear someone who bought a rental property through an agent. The agent said, oh yeah, you'll be able to get this much for rent. In reality, they could only get that much for rent, which was less. And then it threw off their numbers. And had they actually sat down with someone who worked with their lender, who understood investment financing, and the realtor had owned property themselves and had brought the property manager into the equation, they wouldn't have had that surprise. It still may have been a good investment. It just would have had a different taste in their mouth when it got done.
Right. It really comes down to the team, right? So not just there's not one person involved in a real estate transaction. Right? We all want to think that you just go to the realtor, you just go to the lender. The reality is that it's a team, right? There's a realtor, there's a lender, there's title, there's home warranty, there's contractors involved. There's all kinds of different people involved. Property manager as well. So if you have a good team that really understands what they're doing and can show you a track record of success, that's where you that's where you want to be at, right?
Yeah, and I'll throw in a plug. I'm sure you won't mind, for Steve Chater. He wrote a book with Janice Doty and the McKissicks called Hold, HOLD, and it's part of the Keller Williams series. And it's a great book if you're thinking about investing. And then check if you're here local in the Phoenix market, because we do. Our team does team up with Steve and teach it throughout the year for both realtors who are trying to learn, as well as their clients. And so you as a client can come in, we're happy to host you and help you with that education. But I also know you would sit down with them one-on-one
Oh yeah, I mean,
at any time.
Steve and I have lunch almost every week now, which is amazing. I mean, to be able to glean from someone that's been in the industry for 40 years, I feel incredibly blessed for that. Yeah, and I think back to my first transaction actually with I was on Andrew Mandy Monahan's team, and how great they set me up for success. My first transaction was with you as the lender.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. Look at that.
It's like, I mean,
we didn't scare you off. That's
no,
good.
That's right. So I just look at that, and there's definitely multiple blessings to have people that just know what they're doing and can really help others, in the industry. And that's what we're looking to do now, right? Is how do we grow our team? How do we help others? And we're starting different clubs at both our brokerage as well as outside, and inviting other agents in. And then we're going to start inviting clients as well to start talking to them about wealth building. So very similar to what Steve does, but just in a little bit different context to include both real estate investing, but also financial investing and that kind of thing.
Well, I think it's so important, especially in our industry where oftentimes people have big paychecks, or sometimes it's inconsistent paychecks, and just how do you set yourself up, and whether you're in real estate or in any other industry, it's just such a critical piece. You already mentioned it, having your team in place. Right. You mentioned your real estate team. So talk from that perspective. I mean, I know as a team leader, I know where your heart is, but you guys are helping people who are trying to build a career in real estate. What does that look like? Who are you looking for your team, that kind of thing? Yeah.
So I'm always looking for someone that's a go-getter. So I was in the military for 8 years. I was military police with the U.S. Army, and I specifically remember this instance where we were going on the 19-mile ruck march, and so it's at the end, and they require you to have, I think it's like 45 or 65 pounds in your pack and everything else, right? And I remember the captain coming out, and he was actually new to our company. And right before we set out, he took a 45-pound plate, along with all the stuff he had, a 45-pound plate from the weight room, and put it in his bag and said, "Okay, if I can do it, you can do it. Embrace the suck."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he led like the whole way, and would like run back and find stragglers, and then just amazing stuff. So you talk about leadership and inspiration, right? So, the lesson in there was embrace the suck. Right? And then just go lead. And so what I've taken from that is the people that we want on our team are people that are going to be willing to do that and say, okay, I'm going to embrace the suck because I'm going to go follow someone into something that I don't necessarily know what I'm getting into, but I know that they're willing to take me through. And actually, even if I fall behind, they'll come pick me up and they'll take me to the front.
Yeah, that's right? Awesome.
So that was huge for me. I mean, I remember that, right? So that's who we're looking for, is someone that is a go-getter. We also care about character. That's really important. People ask me all the time, well, what does your script book look like? And if you ask Anthony, who's our inside sales agent, our ISA, he'll tell you, yeah, Kevin just has one script. And he applies it he applies it every single day, which is, hey, this is Anthony with Barry Home Group, and we just want to check in with you and see how we can best serve you. Now, it doesn't have to be real estate related. It doesn't have to be family related. It could be whatever it may be. We just want to check in with them and make sure that we're caring for them. And if they had a new baby, we'll send them a card. If they just got married, we'll send them, a cake or, whatever it may be. We're just looking for different ways that we can serve the community and build those relationships. And ultimately, we want them to buy and sell with us and invest with us. But I always look at it as people work with people that they know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we want to be that team. If you know us and you like us and you trust us, then use us. If you don't, use somebody else. That's okay with us. We want to be the ones that are going to be there to serve, though. Well,
it's funny because that's what my notes say here, and I actually underlined it. It's all about service. Just go serve. And I was just so taken back by that because I know so many people who say that. I've known you long enough to know that you actually do that. So that's just huge.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, we love doing that. I mean, that's our personal mission statement, right? Like I think about 50 years in the future when I'm retired and I'm not working anymore. What am I going to be doing? Well, I'm probably going to go give meals to people and send them cards, and like all the stuff that we're doing now. And I took this from Jay Papasan, who wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Agent with Gary Keller. I was in a class with him. And he said, millionaires and billionaires, they look forward 30, 40, 50 years, the end of their life, whatever it may be. And they think back on what would they have changed, 30, 40, 50 years ago, right? And then they go and they change it, right? And they implement it right away.
Well, that's huge. So what I would say is this, if you're thinking about buying or selling a home or jumping into real estate or investing in a home, definitely give you guys a call. How would someone reach out to you guys?
Yeah, so probably call our number would be great.
All right, why don't you give out the number, go out the website.
Yeah, sure. So 480-867-6670. Our website is barryhomegroup.com, Barry.
That's where people are going to mess up. Barry.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, not Barry like strawberry. I got that enough as a kid. It's Barry.
All right, so anything else that you thought we should have talked about on this show, but we haven't?
We covered a lot. I think that the biggest thing is we want to elevate the mindset of the industry. And so something that's coming up a lot right now is people are talking about, agents in general are talking about gross and volume and that kind of thing. And we really want to start talking about net and the business side of things, because if you have a really great business, then you can give and you can serve at a higher level, right?
Absolutely.
If you're profitable, then you have profit, right?
Yeah.
Versus just income and expenses. And you can't do anything for anybody with that, right? So that's something that we're looking at strongly, both as a brokerage and as a team and just individually, is how can we increase profit so that we can give and we can serve more. That's really what our goal is. And so we're looking for more and more people to do that with, either through clients or to partner with, or that just want to be in our brokerage or whatever it may be. We just want to give and serve more.
I just love that. So now you guys all see why I wanted to have Kevin on here. Thank you for being part of Your Neighborhood Real Estate Show, Lindsay Ranch edition. Friends, Kevin Barry. This episode is brought to you by homebuyeruniversity.net, your free comprehensive guide to buying or refinancing your home. Click over to homebuyeruniversity.net to get started online today.